You open your banking app. The number stares back at you. $247. It's the 23rd of the month. Rent cleared 3 weeks ago. Groceries, gas, phone bill, they all took their cut. What's left isn't wealth. It's what survived. You close the app. You've seen enough. This is not poverty. You have a job. You have income. But you also have something else, a ceiling. Every month, you start over. Every month, the number resets to near zero, and the cycle begins again. You are not broke. You are trapped in motion. Cash flows in, cash flows out. There is no accumulation, no buffer, no margin for error. One surprise expense, a car repair, a medical bill, anything, and you're borrowing, delaying, or breaking something else to stay afloat. This is the $0 to $1,000 stage, and it is exhausting. You don't talk about it much. When friends suggest dinner, you say you're busy. When something breaks, you learn to fix it yourself or live without it. You become very good at small math. Can I afford this? If I skip lunch twice this week, does that free up $30? If I wait until Friday, will the account look better? Every financial decision is a negotiation with yourself. And the worst part? You're working. You show up. You perform. You're not lazy. But your income only covers living, not building. You're running on a treadmill, burning energy, going nowhere. This is where most people live. Not because they're careless, but because they've never been shown the exit. Then, one month, something shifts. Maybe you get a small bonus. Maybe you cut back on something that didn't matter. Maybe you just decide enough. You open a separate account. You label it, Do Not Touch. You move $50 into it. It feels like nothing. It is nothing compared to what others have. But it's the first dollar that isn't spoken for. The first dollar that doesn't disappear by month's end. You leave it there. Next month, you add another $50, then $75, then $100. No one notices. There's no celebration. But inside, something is changing. You are becoming someone who keeps money, not just earns it. 3 months later, your separate account reads dollar caramelized 480. It's not life-changing, but it's different. For the first time in years, you have a number that isn't tied to a bill. You have space between you and disaster. Then your car breaks down. The mechanic says $400. A year ago, this would have derailed you. You would have panicked, used a credit card, or begged for payment plans. But today, you open that account. You pay it, you move on. And something unexpected happens. You don't spiral. Yes, your buffer is gone. But you're not starting from zero, you're starting from experience. You know you can build it again, because you already did. So you do. Within 2 months, you're back to $500, then $750, then you cross $1,000. This is the moment everything changes. Not because $1,000 is rich. It's not, but because you now have proof that you can accumulate, proof that discipline works. Proof that you are not destined to live paycheck to paycheck forever. You start reading, not because someone told you to, but because you're curious. What do people do after $1,000? You learn words you'd heard before, but never understood. Emergency fund, index fund, compound interest, Roth IRA. You open a high-yield savings account. The interest is tiny, maybe $3 a month, but it's money you didn't work for. It's the first time your wealth worked for you. Even a little. You keep saving. $1,200, $1,800, $2,500. Then one day, you hit $4,000. Now you have options. Not freedom, but options. You can handle a surprise expense without fear. You can say no to a job you hate, knowing you have a few months of runway. You can think 1 year ahead instead of 1 week ahead. Your relationship with money is changing. It used to trigger anxiety. Now it triggers strategy. You're not just saving anymore, you're allocating. You decide to keep $3,000 as an emergency fund and invest the rest. You open a brokerage account, you buy your first index fund, $500 worth. The first week, it drops to $485. You panic a little, but you read more. You learn that markets fluctuate. You learn that time in the market beats timing the market. You learn to do nothing, which is harder than it sounds. A month later, it's at $510. You add another $200. Then another. 1 year later, your invested balance reads $4,100. Your emergency fund sits at $5,000. Total net worth, $9,100. You're not rich, but you're no longer fragile. You've crossed into a new category of person, someone who has capital, not just income. And capital changes everything. It buys time. It buys patience. It buys the ability to think long-term in a world that punishes short-term thinkers. You start to notice things. Your coworkers complain about being broke, but they lease new cars. They vacation on credit. They treat income like wealth. You used to do that too, but now you see it clearly. Cash flow is not the same as net worth. You may earn less than them, but you keep more, and keeping is what counts. At $15,000, something inside you solidifies. You stop checking your account out of fear. You check it out of curiosity. You stop thinking month to month. You start thinking in years. You increase your 401 key contribution. You max out your Roth IRA. You automate everything, so discipline becomes default. Your lifestyle barely changes. You're not depriving yourself, you've just stopped spending on things that don't matter. And the gap between what you earn and what you spend? That gap is where wealth lives. You're beginning to understand. You're not losing. You're simply not accumulating yet. But now you are. At $31,000, you feel it. Not relief control. You no longer wonder if you'll be okay. You know you will. Because you've built something that can absorb shocks, weather storms, and keep growing even when you're not watching. You've become someone who plans instead of reacts. Your emergency fund is fully stocked. 6 months of expenses, sitting in a high-yield account, doing nothing but existing, and that's exactly what it should do. The rest? Invested. $20,000 in index funds. $4,000 in your Roth IRA. $2,000 in a brokerage account you're experimenting with. You check your portfolio once a week now. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. You've learned not to flinch. Because you're not investing for this month, you're investing for 10 years from now. You start noticing a strange phenomenon. The first $10,000 took years. The next $10,000 took half that time. The third? Even faster. It's not because you're earning more, though you are, slightly. It's because your money is working now. Compounding isn't just a concept anymore. It's a line on a graph that's starting to curve upward. You earned $16.43 in interest last month. That's one meal, one tank of gas, nothing extravagant. But it's also free. You didn't trade time for it. You didn't sacrifice a weekend. It just appeared, because your wealth existed. And you think, what if that number was $100? What if it was $1,000? You're beginning to see the horizon. At $50,000, people start to notice. Not because you told them you didn't, but something about you is different. You don't stress about small expenses. You don't complain about money. You're calm in situations that used to break you. A friend asks, how do you always seem so stable? You shrug. You don't say, I have $50,000 invested. You just say, I got serious about saving a few years ago. They nod. But they don't ask more. Most people don't want the real answer. Because the real answer requires years of delayed gratification, and that's not appealing. But you know the truth. Wealth isn't built in moments. It's built in systems. You automated your savings. You lived below your means. You resisted lifestyle inflation. You stayed consistent. And now, you're in a place most people never reach, not because they can't, but because they stopped too early. At $74,000, you start thinking differently. You're no longer just saving. You're allocating strategically. You diversify. Stocks, bonds, maybe a little real estate exposure through REITs. You read about tax optimization. You learn what a backdoor Roth is. You understand capital gains. You're not a financial expert, but you're financially literate, and that's rarer than it should be. You increase your income too. A promotion, a side project, freelance work. You're not chasing money desperately anymore. You're leveraging opportunity because you have the stability to take risks. And here's the shift. Money used to be the goal. Now it's a tool. You don't want wealth to show off. You want it to buy time, to buy freedom, to buy the ability to say no to things that drain you. At $100,000, you pause. 6 figures. Net worth. It's a arbitrary milestone, but it feels significant. You're in the top 20% of people your age, even though most of them earn more than you, because they spent it, and you didn't. You remember what it was like at $247, the anxiety, the tightness in your chest, the constant mental math. That person feels like a stranger now. You're not smarter than you were. You're not luckier. You just made different choices, consistently, over time. And time was the secret ingredient. At $150,000, something surprising happens. You lose $8,000 in a market downturn. Your portfolio drops from $152,000 to $144,000 in 2 weeks. You feel it, but you don't panic. A few years ago, this would have destroyed you. You would have sold everything, locked in the loss, and sworn off investing forever. But now you understand. Markets go down, then they go back up. If you don't sell, you don't lose. So you hold. You keep contributing. You even buy a little more while prices are low. 3 months later, you're back to $150,000. 6 months later, you're at $167,000. You've learned the hardest lesson in wealth building. Do nothing. Discipline isn't loud. It's quiet, boring, relentless. At $210,000, your investment income becomes noticeable. Last year, your portfolio generated $12,000 in growth and dividends. That's $1,000 a month. You didn't work a single extra hour for it. You start thinking, what if I had $500,000? That'd be $2,500 a month. What if I had $1 million? That'd be $5,000 a month. For the first time, you see the end game. Financial independence. Not retirement at 65, not waiting for permission. Just freedom. The ability to work because you want to, not because you have to. You run the numbers. If you keep contributing $1,500 a month and earn 8% annually, you'll hit $500,000 in 7 years. You'll hit $1 million in 12. You're 34 years old. That means by 46, you're free. At $310,000, you're unstoppable. You max out every tax-advantaged account. You rebalance quarterly. You reinvest dividends. You stay disciplined during crashes and calm during booms. Your friends buy bigger houses, nicer cars, designer, everything. You buy time. You work 4 days a week now. You take Fridays off. Not because you're rich, but because you can afford to earn a little less. And that's the whole point. Wealth isn't about having more. It's about needing less. At $480,000, you're close. So close. You can feel it. Financial independence isn't a dream anymore. It's a date on a calendar. At $740,000, the math gets simple. Your portfolio generates roughly $35,000 a year in safe withdrawal terms. That's not enough to replace a six-figure salary, but it covers your basics: rent, food, insurance, utilities. You realize you could quit your job and survive. Not thrive, not travel the world, but survive without working. That thought used to feel impossible. Now it's just a choice you're not ready to make yet, because you're close to something bigger. At $1 million, you stop. You sit with it. 7 figures. You are a millionaire. Not on paper in assets you can't touch, but in liquid, invested, working wealth. You didn't inherit it. You didn't win it. You built it, one boring, disciplined decision at a time. Your portfolio generates $40,000 to $50,000 per year, passively. You still work, but not because you have to. Because you want to. Because the work matters now, not the paycheck. At $1,400,000, you reach it. Financial independence. Your investments generate $60,000 plus per year. That's more than you spend. You quit your job. Not in anger, not in burnout, just calmly. You walk out the door and you don't come back. And the next morning, you wake up in silence. No alarm, no meetings, no commute. Just time. Unscheduled, unmonetized, entirely yours. And here's what no one tells you. Freedom is terrifying. For years, you fought to escape. And now that you have, you don't know what to do with it. You're free. But free to do what? Money solved the urgency, but it didn't answer the bigger question. What do you actually want? So you sit, you think, you experiment, you travel, you read, you create, you rest. Some days feel perfect, other days feel empty. Because wealth bought you freedom, but it didn't give you purpose. That part? That's still up to you.